Hi, my name is Jennifer Simpson, and welcome to another episode of Here's the Deal. Today we're talking about something that is really special within the HD community, and that's the experience of juvenile Huntington's disease. We have with us the wonderful Londen Tabor. Londen is a mom to 3 awesome kids, and one of her children, Autumn, her daughter, has juvenile Huntington's disease. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So this is an issue that parenting a child with juvenile Huntington's disease, and I'll just say GHD for short because my tongue is going to get tied pretty quick.
Yes. Yep.
It's something that I think the parents who experience it are so desperate for experiences they can relate to.
Absolutely.
Because, HD is a rare disease.
Yes.
And juvenile Huntington's is only about 10% of the general HD population.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very rare. What was or do you remember when the first time was that you realized that Huntington's disease, that juvenile Huntington's disease could run in your family?
When Justin was diagnosed, he was diagnosed, I think it was about 2008. I knew before his diagnosis it was probably within that whole year that I sat at the library in Leeds, South Dakota on that public computer next to some other guy right next to me as I tried to read and read and read as much as I could about Huntington's disease. Mm. And as I read and I read, my heart would just race. And I remember at one of those visits to the library, just the tears start rolling. I mean, the realization that I had never met anybody with Huntington's disease before, so I didn't know what to look for. Mm. But everything I read, that seemed just like what was going on with Justin, and I knew he had a chance. And when I really started to read it and put it together, I started to see it. And then I remember reading even more, like, oh my God, if he does have this disease, my kids have a chance of having this disease. And because it's coming from a male, mm-hmm. for some unknown reason, most of the time, a majority, but not all the time, that gene expands even more, causing the onset of the Huntington's disease to begin much earlier, leading to juvenile Huntington's disease, meaning it scared me to death that not only with this disease that's going to be killing my boyfriend, father of my children at the time, but oh my God, if he has this, like, everything just kind of like overwhelmingly, okay. But I had to just have hope. I just had to have hope. First, is this what I'm seeing with him? And then just, God, hope that's not, maybe I never saw it. So maybe, that was, so I already knew about it.
So I think so many parents have that exact feeling, that like overwhelming, like aha moment, but it's more of a like, oh my God, mm-hmm. moment. And then they think, oh, if we already have kids, what does this mean for them? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that sort of what if scenarios start moving forward and forward and forward. And mm-hmm. just the anxiety, the fear can be so overwhelming.
And the guilt. I can't help but feel guilty because mm-hmm. I know I'm not alone. And I wouldn't take any of my children back for the world, mm-hmm. but I can't help but feel guilty because I knew, but I didn't know. I knew, but I didn't know. Why didn't I know? What's wrong with me?
Well, it's really interesting. That's in talking to a lot of folks in the community who come into it for the first time. They think, oh, I read about this and I thought I knew what this meant, and then I started to meet people, and oh my God, mm-hmm. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. You can know something academically, but then when you know something on a personal or an emotional level, it is so different. And
by the time Autumn was diagnosed, I knew everything, and I was just like, and then of course me and my husband both eventually just could see it and knew with that, but yeah, it's
Do you remember terrible. When did you start to notice something was going on with Autumn?
So, as you know, with all Huntingtons, it's hard to say whether little things, yelling fits or whatnot a long time ago could have been or not. But I'm just going to start from where I really, really started to go, I don't know. It was probably when she was about 10. I do remember her being, she was diagnosed, she was 11 when she was diagnosed, but it was about 5th grade. And because I remember having the conferences, and I would let the teachers know because I was worried. I did slowly see a decline But was this HD? Was it JHD? Or was this just normal kid behavior? Am I going crazy because I'm so worried? Or is this normal kid behavior? All of my kids have ADHD. I clearly have ADHD. I mean, and so these are comparable things. And it is, as a parent, and I talk to these parents on social media, and I know exactly how they feel. And I know that there's people that told me, and it was the best advice, just try not to worry. You have to have hope. Just have hope and stop worrying that they do have it and have hope that they don't. Unfortunately, in our situation, that worry became a reality, but
so how did you? So it sounds like you started knowing behavioral differences.
Behavior,
it was like Autumn is not quite her normal self.
Yes, it was just like yelling and fits and screaming in her room, and I'm just like, did I just spoil her or what? So those were little things early, and I kind of still blew this off. But it was really her grades. It was the decline. I started to go through her school papers. I saved I'm not one of those moms that saves everything, but I kind of save things. And so, I can still picture it in my head when I pulled out. It was like from third or second grade, maybe even first. Oh, I wish I had it now. The complete difference. I mean, it looked like, and this is the progression of it. This is the progression of it that people don't, it doesn't happen like that. It does, but it doesn't. And so when you start comparing, not that you want to be comparing and trying to freak out and going, well, this and this and this, it all adds up. But there's a big difference in her writing, her behavior, and school, and outbursts at school. And so things just started to slowly it was a school, and slowly get worse and worse. And it was at the parent-teacher conferences in October of 2017. My husband was on his way, and the teacher, she's a sweetheart, didn't even, I just knew. I knew going in that conference. She had kind of laid everything out like she was really disappointed, and she didn't really know what to say, because I think we try to give people a history, because Justin was like, we'd have the nursing home and stuff, bring him to the schools, and so we made the teacher aware. So she's kind of aware that this was maybe. But anyway, laid those papers out. My husband wasn't even there, and I just looked at him, and I knew. And a couple months later, the neurologist saw it too. There were changes within 6 months.
So as a parent, the other thing that I'm thinking about is you've got Autumn, and then you've got two other kids who are not diagnosed with JHD. How did you explain what was going on with Autumn to her brothers?
They already knew. I am very open with the kids. I've always been open with the kids with their dad. I never wanted them to be scared to see their dad, nor were they ever. They were proud. We were with them till the end. I was actually holding his hand when he took his last breath, as odd as that sounds, me being married. And it does. We are one big family, and Justin and so Logan is my other child with the chance of HD. And my worst fears were confirmed when Autumn was diagnosed, and I feel like it is sad because, and I feel like Logan is left out. So Dakota's he's 18 now, but I do feel like Logan is left out a lot, and a lot of our focus. But at the same time, Logan, even though he's a teenager and it probably still hurts a little, he understands. He understands. I mean, God, he knows how. I mean, I would do the same thing for him. I will do the same thing. I hope he doesn't have it. But I feel like I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm just focused. I'm trying to focus on her, and again, have hope that Logan doesn't have it, because I don't see anything in him that I saw in Autumn, and I cross my fingers that I do not, and we just.
And it's sort of like you have to focus on the issue that's in front of you instead of thinking too much in the future. That will sort of send you into a tailspin.
Yes.
And it sounds like for your kids, like their understanding of Autumn and her JHD is that that they can be very compassionate with her. Did you find you had to change how you parented them when Autumn got diagnosed?
So yeah, there are, things here and there, but again, I think even them understanding, she got a 4-wheeler for Christmas, for instance, and the boys were not getting a 4-wheeler for Christmas. And that's just the way it is. And there was no complaints. There isn't, because it's just, so I guess the unfairness that I know that that's really unfair. Too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad.
They're like, I get it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I don't know. I guess it is hard, and you feel like a lot of the attention goes to her, and it does. And it does. And it breaks my heart. And I will totally admit that. And there have been times where there's tears and there's yells and that I don't care about them, and I'll deal with it later, because right now I got to deal with Autumn. I mean, I'm not saying deal with that later, but it's just, yeah, she is my focus. She's our focus. And
yeah, and you have a child who's got a higher level of need than other children. It's sort of your resources are finite too as a parent. When she was younger, how did you kind of determine what was her being a kid and what was changes because of JHD? That would be a tough thing to discern as a parent.
Well, what I have to say about that is that was my absolute hardest thing at the time. And so I'm going to just refer to around the diagnosis time, because these were the changes I was seeing. And so I'm just like, I'm seeing these changes, and I don't want to ground her for something that she can't help. I don't want her having stuff taken away for something she can't help, or some fit she threw, or some way I didn't handle it because I didn't understand.
You want it to be fair to her. You want to be able to say, you know, I'm not going to punish you for something because it's happening because of your brain.
Exactly.
But also, if you're misbehaving and it's just you, I don't want to let that slide because there's this other factor, right? Sort of trying to find a way to be compassionate, but also parent her like any other child.
Exactly.
Because in so many ways, you know, she's like a lot of other kids.
She is just like the other kids.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
So I imagine that's a tough balance to try and find as a parent.
And it was especially hard at first, but I'm not a perfect parent, and there are times that I yell, and my kids call me crazy, and they can do that because all parents are crazy from time to time. Mine's just a little bit more often. But, you know, there are just certain things I know I don't know how to explain how to do it, because everybody is their individual person. It's just trying to avoid a crisis. I mean, there are different techniques and things to try to hurry up and deter her away from whatever it is that she gets distracted about. For instance, she had her hair dye in her hair that started to drip out. And, of course, it was my fault for some reason. And so it's things like that. And so in that case, I'm like, okay, I can't be around her because she's just going to yell at me. Hurry up, Logan, go in there and tell her how awesome her hair looks. Tell her it looks fine. I mean, just yell it in the bathroom. And guess what? It works. I don't know why, but it works. It's just like these. So there's little things to help her to distract. But at first, I was like, now I'm trying to determine. And now, I mean, at the point, unfortunately, that was only, 6 months or a year ago that I was trying to decipher. And now there's not really deciphering, but there's times where I know Autumn might say something or do something, and I'll just kind of have to go, Autumn, you know, and she's good. So, yeah.
Thinking about yourself as in this sort of parenting phase, and you have your husband is from outside of sort of the HD space. What was it like bringing him into that, and how does he interact with Autumn?
Oh man, it was great. It really was great, because my husband's, he really is really smart. I am bragging, and he's gonna hate that I'm saying this, but he is really, really smart. So he teaches me things. In fact, he came to convention last year and was able to. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, and he's like, I'll explain it later. Sweet. So he's very involved, very, very involved. Autumn, I mean, that is her dad. It's her dad, but it's Chris. And then she has her dad, who passed, Justin. And, you know, to us, it's not a difference at all. There's no difference. Chris isn't the father of any of the kids, but he is the father of all the kids. And we are a family. And he loves her to death, and it kills us both. It kills us both. But there's nothing we can do.
That sort of leads me into this other idea that I think parents who are parenting a child with juvenile Huntington's disease, I imagine, experience a level of frustration that probably no one else can even come close to. The frustrations that you feel, what are some of those frustrations that you encounter in this journey?
frustrations in school, frustrations I am mad at the outside world sometimes for just people being stupid, that it's not their fault, that they don't understand. I'm frustrated that I feel I have to explain it to people because there's not enough awareness out there. She still can walk. She still can talk. She slurs her speech, but things are declining, and time is everything. With HD and JHD, time is everything.
Yeah.
It is absolutely everything, and I just want her to be as normal as possible for as long as possible. She wants to be part of their group or talk to them and be a cool kid or, that sort of thing, or she wants to be on the cheerleading squad, and that hasn't happened, but she wants to be just a normal kid.
It sounds like so much of it is like knowing that for her experience, she's like, am I that different? I just want to be like everybody else.
And I try not to make her feel different.
Yeah.
Of course, at the same time. So that's a challenge too.
Yeah, trying to find that balance of like, okay, we do need to accommodate you. There are things about having JHD that mean that there are things you can do, there are things that you'll struggle with, and we got to work through that. And at the same time, I don't want to ever deny you any experience.
Exactly.
Right? That's, especially for someone with juvenile Huntington's disease, that would feel so deeply unfair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When everything already feels very unfair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So things like, if you want to go and try out for the cheerleading squad, like, let's try it.
Yeah.
If you want to get on stage and hula hoop, let's do it.
Yeah.
If you want to ride your four-wheeler, let's do it.
Yeah.
If you want to go to New York City, let's do it.
Let's do it.
There's sort of this feeling you don't want to deny them anything because of their JHD.
Yeah.
You want to make the world available to them.
Yeah, and not that I even want to deny any of my kids, but there's, of course, something with a child with JHD or any type of terminal illness, and this is, I can't think of anything worse. I can't personally think of anything worse. And I just want her life to be as best as possible, for as long as she can.
Yeah.
Because there will be a time where she'll be around, but she's not going to be able to have those experiences. So.
Yeah. So thinking about something you were mentioning a second earlier is this idea of how people misunderstand or maybe judge someone with juvenile Huntington's disease.
Yeah.
Have you had that kind of experience?
Absolutely. Oh, and so when I'm in the situation of this, the first time I think it probably happened was March after Autumn got diagnosed, so January of 18 last year. And I took her to Denver for her birthday, and I'll never forget sitting in this restaurant waiting to eat. And this lady was staring at her. And so in this particular and this is more than once, but it's the same type of idea. So when people are anyone, I want to go, what the hell is wrong with you? My daughter has juvenile Huntington's disease, and then make a giant scene, right? But then I got to explain, it's hard enough to even explain what Huntington's disease is, and I want to just want to it's very, I don't really have words. It's very frustrating because you don't know what to do. And I have just been like, listen, my child has so when you say just terminal illness, you can kind of leave it at that and be like, stop staring. I'm not going to explain anymore.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Something else I wanted to touch on is the idea of anger. So I imagine as a parent of someone who has juvenile Huntington's disease, anger is a pretty big factor in life.
It is big for her, for me.
What do you do to try and manage that anger?
So Autumn came up with a good term. I'm glad you brought that up because this was part of trying to weed through, like, honey, we want to help you. And you have to try to recognize when you are, maybe just need to take a breath and calm down and whatever. So she calls it going all monster on you. So she's like, I'm like, don't be a monster. Because that's when or a J-attitude, JHD attitude. But I try to just say it to her in a way where I'm not being mean to her. Like, I'm not yelling at her to stop being a brat. But at the same time, like, don't be a monster. And she'll do the same thing to me. She'll be like, Mom, you're being a monster. Okay. Take it down a notch. Put it on the back burner. So yeah, the attitude and the anger, it happens.
Yeah.
And as quickly as we can detour away from that, the better. And so saying fun things or funny things or just stuff like that kind of distracts her or me too, because it's not just her, it's me too, and my husband, and we all have to work together. And because
that's what I was thinking also. I mean, obviously from a symptom standpoint, you have to try and find those creative workarounds for Autumn to try and say, okay, how do we diffuse? How do we redirect? How are we going to take something that if I don't do something about this now, this is going to be a big mess, and I don't have time to deal with that.
Yep.
So what are we going to do? But as a parent, I imagine there's also this sort of like existential anger, feeling like an impotent anger, and like, why, how, and I can't do anything.
And we're so close too. I think that's also what it's like, oh my gosh, right when we're so close. And then I look at that first one and now we're like doing research and there's clinical trials. And now I'm like, time is everything.
Something I'm wondering as well is like having that time with Autumn, having those experiences with her. How important is it for you to create experiences for her, to create memories, to be present and do those things with her?
Then that's the absolute number one thing for me. Nothing else matters. So conventions and retreats, they're not only, I think that they're great because you get to go places, but for us, you also get to experience, even if I was by myself, I walked around by myself for me to experience and then to take my kids out and go with them and experience. It's like, it's good for the whole family to get out to these things, to get to another city, spend an extra day. It's like convention's not only about coming here and learning, but you also do get to spend time with your family and do things. So after we're going to New York in a couple days to create those memories. There is only so much time we have that Autumn will be able to get up and walk around, and we had to buy a backup wheelchair for New York City, and she does not want to use it. And if she doesn't, great, but I had to be prepared in case it happens because I want her to have the best time and I don't want her to worry, and I can't carry her.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and there's also this sense of like you don't want ever to have an experience, again, sort of the denial of experience, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you could feel, it's like any injustice that might happen, whether it's even teeny tiny, for someone who is parenting someone who has JHD, it's, on top of a mountain of other injustices.
Yeah. It's like I know there's going to be regret. I know there'll be things I regret. 10 years from now, there's going to be things that I wish I would have done for Autumn. And that's going to happen regardless. So I already know that, so I'm just trying to avoid that from happening in the first place and just create, we have a great time. And, we all do as a family have a great time, not just me and her go places, but even at home. Yeah.
And not only that, but like when you include the whole family, so it's memories that she has not just with you, but with her brothers, memories that her brothers will have with her. Like those are so important because, life is so much about experience.
It is.
It's about the lived experience. So you have to make sure that for her and for you guys as a family that you live as much as humanly possible.
Yes. And everybody says that, right? Everybody says live every day if it was your last. Well, yeah.
Yeah, JHD makes that a little bit more real.
It does, absolutely.
What are some things you guys get to do at home? Like, traveling is amazing. What do you guys do together when you're back at home?
Oh my gosh. She loves, she has a little stereo and she likes to listen to every song. I think music's great also. Just a little side note for HT and JHD because it's, if there's anything, when kids are on their phones and tablets and all that stuff, I worry that that's going to make maybe things progress faster. But music, man, my girl, she can pick up lyrics just like I could when I was her age, though, the same thing. And so she'll sing songs, and I love it because she'll start singing Cardi B or something, and she gets this, like, squeaking her voice like she did last night when she ran up on stage.
Yeah. Well, that's really an interesting point, thinking about like art, thinking about music, that those activate different parts of your brain and exercise those different parts of your brain that with HD, where one part might be sort of atrophying and being degraded, finding those outlets into other parts of the brain that sort of keep her there and keep her active.
Yeah.
And so for other parents who have a child who has JHD who might watch this, what is one thing you would tell them in terms of trying to cope with some of the frustrations that they are also feeling? What is something you would tell them?
Oh, to have hope that they don't have it. Try your best not to worry and just have hope that they don't. You can't test them you can't test them unless they're showing significant symptoms. For a long time, I thought, should I or should I not test my kids? Okay. I thought, and this for a long time, I thought, I kind of, don't I? Do I?
Yeah.
Then I found out I couldn't. And that made me feel so much better.
Right. No choice.
No choice. And it made sense. It made sense.
Yeah.
So just have hope that they don't.
And I'm wondering for someone, if they're in that situation like you are, where there's been a diagnosis, right? So it's certain. What would you sort of tell them in terms of, as a parent, to help them manage that anger, that fear that they might be experiencing? What are the supports or any recommendations you would give to them?
It's very difficult. I mean, I really don't. I wish I could say I have words, but everybody handles things differently. And this is a really, 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 really terrible disease. And you can try to look at the bright side all you want, but there's no bright side. And I mean, there is. You know what? There is a bright side. The bright side is you still have this person, and now you know, and enjoy every single moment you can, just because that's all you can do. So I hate to say that, but
I completely
hate to say it, but
that's also a really good piece of advice, right? Living in that present moment.
Yeah.
Finding those ways of focusing on creating memories together, focusing on things that you guys can do where it's not about them having JHD, but it's about you guys being together as a family.
Yeah.
Or it's about seeing that person smile.
Yes,
or about
yes.
hearing that laughter.
Yeah.
You know, those are the things to focus on. If they're, anything that you can do that will create those connections, create memories, that's the important thing.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yes, for sure. So.
Well, Londen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I know this is a topic where we could do probably 30 of these.
Yeah, or more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
With me, eh?
So I want to thank you again, and thank you for your openness and for coming and talking about your life with JHD.
Yeah. Well, it's ours,
Yeah. And that's the deal with parenting a child with JHD.